You arrive at the edge of a quiet that feels older than sound. There is no wind here, no crackle or hum, only a vast stillness that seems to breathe without making a noise. You imagine yourself floating, supported by nothing but patience, as the universe opens around you. This is space when it is not performing, not exploding or colliding, but simply being. In this hush, you sense motion that does not rush, change that does not announce itself. The universe grows quiet, and in that quiet, it grows. You let your attention drift outward, past the familiar shapes of stars, past the glowing islands of galaxies. They are still there, luminous and slow, but something subtle is happening between them. The spaces that separate these galaxies are stretching, lengthening the way a yawn spreads across a sleepy face. Nothing snaps or tears. There is only a gentle easing apart. You notice that this separation is not because the galaxies are trying to escape one another. Space itself is doing the moving. It feels natural to picture the universe as a container, with galaxies flying through it like sparks. But here, in the calm, you begin to sense a different truth. Space is not a stage, it is an actor. It expands quietly, adding new distance between everything that rests inside it. You imagine dots drawn on the surface of a slowly inflating balloon. The dots do not crawl away from each other, yet the space between them grows. This is how the universe changes while appearing still. As you rest in this image, time softens. Billions of years compress into a feeling rather than a number. You sense the early universe, young and dense, where everything is close enough to feel warm. Then, gradually, the universe relaxes its grip. Space stretches. Temperatures fall. Light begins its long journeys. Expansion is not a single event but an ongoing habit, as gentle and persistent as breathing. For a long while, scientists believe they understand this expansion. Gravity, the great gatherer, should slow it down. Every galaxy, every star, every grain of matter pulls on every other. The universe, they think, should be coasting, gradually easing its outward motion. You can almost feel this expectation, reasonable and comforting, like assuming a thrown ball will arc and fall back to the ground. But the universe does not behave as expected. As you float here, you learn that distant galaxies are not just moving away. They are speeding up. The expansion is accelerating, as if the universe has discovered a deeper inhale. This realization arrives quietly in human history, hidden in careful measurements and faint light. There is no explosion, no alarm. Just a growing awareness that something unseen is at work. This unseen influence is given a name that sounds heavier than it feels: dark energy. Despite the word dark, it is not a shadowy substance drifting through space. It does not clump or swirl. Instead, it behaves more like a property of space itself, a tendency to expand. You can think of it as a gentle pressure built into the fabric of the universe, urging everything to relax apart. Dark energy does not shove galaxies away from one another. It does not roar or push. It simply allows space to keep making more of itself. With every passing moment, there is slightly more room than before. This extra room accumulates, quietly but relentlessly, until acceleration becomes noticeable. The universe is not being torn open. It is being invited to stretch. You notice how well this fits the quiet around you. An accelerating universe does not need to be violent. It can be calm, almost tender. Expansion happens everywhere at once, evenly and impartially. No location is special. No direction is favored. From any galaxy, the rest of the universe appears to be moving away. From where you rest now, the same truth holds. It is tempting to imagine dark energy as a thing you could point to, a mist filling the gaps. But the more accurate picture is subtler. Dark energy seems woven into space the way softness is woven into a pillow. You do not see it directly. You feel its effect when you sink in. Space, filled with dark energy, naturally stretches. As this idea settles, you sense how patient the universe is. Acceleration unfolds over immense spans of time. In a single human lifetime, the change is imperceptible. Even over thousands of years, the sky looks mostly the same. Dark energy works on scales so large they dissolve ordinary urgency. It teaches slowness by example. You imagine the universe as a vast, quiet lake at night. The surface looks still, yet beneath it, gentle currents move water from one place to another. Dark energy is like a slow, steady current that does not disturb the surface but gradually reshapes the entire lake. You are floating on that surface now, carried without effort. In this calm understanding, fear has no place. The word accelerating might sound alarming, but here it feels more like inevitability than danger. The universe is not racing toward an edge. It has no walls to crash into. Expansion simply means that tomorrow's distances will be larger than today's. Space is generous, and it keeps giving. You feel smaller and larger at the same time. Smaller, because the forces shaping the cosmos operate far beyond your control. Larger, because you exist within this expansion, participating simply by being. Every atom in your body is carried along as space stretches beneath it. You are not separate from the universe's motion. You are included. The quiet deepens as you accept that dark energy does not need to be understood fully to be felt. It reveals itself through outcomes rather than appearances. Galaxies drift faster. Distances grow. Patterns change slowly. From these effects, its presence is inferred, like noticing a breeze by watching leaves tremble. You begin to sense that understanding the universe often means learning to listen rather than to look. Dark energy cannot be photographed. It leaves no direct trace. Instead, it speaks through relationships between faraway things. The universe tells its story through comparison, then and now, near and far, slower and faster. As you rest in this realization, curiosity replaces certainty. If dark energy is part of space itself, has it always been the same? Has the universe always breathed this way, or is the rhythm changing with age? The quiet around you feels full of questions that do not demand immediate answers. You allow those questions to drift, unforced. The universe remains calm, expansive, and unresolved. Somewhere far away, ancient light is traveling toward you, carrying memories of how space once was. Soon, you will learn to follow that light and read its subtle clues, tracing the footprints it leaves behind as it crosses an ever-growing cosmos in the long, patient dark between moments. You turn your attention from the quiet stretching of space to something that moves within it. Light. Not the sharp glare of a lamp or the sudden flash of lightning, but the oldest light imaginable. Light that begins its journey before Earth exists, before the sun ignites, before your body is even a possibility. This light travels patiently, never tiring, crossing a universe that keeps changing beneath it. You imagine a single particle of light, a photon, slipping free from a distant galaxy. It does not know where it is going. It has no map, no memory, no sense of destination. And yet, it moves with perfect reliability, always at the same speed, no matter how the universe stretches around it. While space expands, light keeps its pace, quietly adapting to the shifting distances. As you rest with this idea, you realize something gentle and surprising. When light finally reaches you, it is no longer exactly what it once was. The expansion of space has stretched it too. Its wavelength grows longer, softer, redder. This stretching is not damage. It is a record. Light carries the imprint of the universe's expansion the way tree rings carry the memory of seasons. Astronomers learn to read these subtle changes. They listen to light the way you might listen to a voice slowed down, lowered in pitch by distance. The color of a galaxy's light reveals how much space has expanded during the light's journey. The farther the galaxy, the more its light has been stretched. Each observation becomes a quiet measurement of cosmic history. You picture the universe as a vast, dark field after snowfall. Every photon that reaches Earth leaves a footprint. Not a physical mark, but a data point, a gentle indentation in understanding. Alone, one footprint means little. But together, millions of them begin to outline paths, distances, and motions too large to see directly. This is how maps of dark energy begin, not with bold lines or sharp borders, but with light collected patiently over decades. Telescopes become listeners rather than watchers. They gather whispers from the sky, ancient and faint, and scientists learn to translate those whispers into stories about space itself. You feel the slowness of this process. Light from a galaxy 10 billion light-years away began its journey when the universe was young. It travels through eras, through expanding space, through the quiet dominance of dark energy, before arriving at a mirror, a sensor, a human instrument. When you look at that light, you are not seeing where the galaxy is now. You are seeing where it was. This delay does not weaken the message. It strengthens it. By comparing light from galaxies at many distances, scientists reconstruct how expansion changes over time. Near galaxies show the universe in its recent state. Far galaxies reveal its deeper past. Light becomes a timeline stretched across the sky. You imagine walking along a beach at dawn, where the tide has gone out slowly overnight. Footprints in the sand tell you where people walked hours ago, even though they are no longer there. In the same way, light reveals the paths galaxies once occupied, even as space continues to carry them farther away. Dark energy enters this story quietly. It does not glow. It does not emit light. But it shapes the journey light must take. As space expands faster, light is stretched more dramatically. By measuring this stretching at different epochs, scientists infer how strong dark energy's influence has been across cosmic time. You feel the elegance of this method. There is no need to chase dark energy directly. It is enough to observe how space treats light. The universe leaves clues everywhere if you learn how to look slowly enough. Dark energy announces itself through absence, through the way distances change rather than through anything you can touch. Some light comes from special events, exploding stars called supernovae that briefly shine with remarkable consistency. These stellar explosions act like cosmic candles. Because their brightness is predictable, differences in how bright they appear reveal their distance. When their light arrives dimmer than expected, it suggests that space has stretched more than once imagined. You sense the quiet excitement hidden inside these measurements. When astronomers first notice that distant supernovae are fainter than predicted, the discovery does not shout. It whispers. Something unseen is changing the scale of the universe. Expansion is not slowing. It is accelerating. Light carries this realization across billions of years to reach human awareness. Other light comes from patterns even older, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang itself. This ancient radiation fills all of space, a soft background hum left over from the universe's earliest moments. Tiny variations in this glow reveal how matter and space were arranged long ago. Dark energy subtly influences how these patterns evolve over time. You imagine all this light layered together, like translucent sheets. Each layer belongs to a different era. Together, they form a three-dimensional map of the universe's expansion. Dark energy shapes the spacing between layers, even though it never appears directly on any of them. There is something deeply calming about this indirectness. The universe does not give up its secrets all at once. It invites patience, repetition, humility. Light must be gathered night after night, year after year. Errors are checked, measurements refined. Understanding grows the way moss grows on stone, slowly, quietly, persistently. As you listen to this story, you realize that your own eyes are part of the process. Human vision evolves to notice light, to respond to brightness and color. Telescopes extend that ancient instinct, allowing curiosity to stretch across the universe just as space itself stretches outward. You feel a connection forming between the smallest and largest scales. A photon touches a sensor. A number is recorded. A map takes shape. From these gentle steps, a picture of dark energy emerges. Not sharp or final, but suggestive, alive with uncertainty and promise. Light, in this way, becomes both messenger and memory. It remembers where it has been because space has changed it. It remembers how the universe once behaved because expansion leaves traces it cannot avoid. Every photon arrives carrying a story, whether or not anyone is ready to listen. As your thoughts slow, you imagine those photons still traveling. Countless beams of light are crossing space right now, passing through expanding regions shaped by dark energy. Some will never meet an observer. Others will reach future minds, future instruments, future questions. The universe remains generous with its clues. It scatters them freely, encoded in light, waiting for patience to uncover them. And as you grow comfortable with this idea, you sense that light does more than reveal distances. It begins to outline shapes, patterns of emptiness and structure that give space its subtle form, waiting to be noticed next. You move gently onward, guided by the fading trails of ancient light, and find yourself drifting into places that seem almost empty. At first, these regions feel like pauses in the universe's story, wide stretches where nothing much happens. No bright stars call for attention. No galaxies crowd your view. There is only space, open and quiet, resting between brighter things. Yet as you linger, you sense that this emptiness is not accidental. It has form. It has pattern. It has a shape you are only beginning to notice. You imagine floating between galaxies, far from their glowing spirals. The darkness here is not frightening. It is soft, like the space between thoughts when your mind begins to relax. These cosmic gaps are called voids, but the word suggests a nothingness that is not quite true. Voids are not holes torn from the universe. They are regions where matter is sparse, where gravity has gently pulled material away over billions of years. As you drift, you begin to see how these voids are arranged. They are not scattered randomly. They fit together like cells in a honeycomb, pressing against one another, outlined by thin walls of galaxies. Along those walls, matter gathers into filaments, long, delicate threads stretching across unimaginable distances. Where filaments intersect, clusters of galaxies form, glowing softly like knots in a net. This vast arrangement is known as the cosmic web, and you are resting inside it now. It feels less like chaos and more like architecture. Gravity helps shape this structure, pulling matter together along invisible paths. But gravity alone does not explain everything you see. Something else influences how large the voids grow, how stretched the filaments become, how gently the web loosens over time. Here, dark energy begins to speak more clearly, though still without a voice. As space expands, voids grow emptier. Matter drains away from them more efficiently, carried toward denser regions. Dark energy encourages this process by making expansion easier, by giving space permission to keep widening the gaps. Over time, emptiness becomes more pronounced, its boundaries more defined. You notice how counterintuitive this feels. Emptiness, which seems like the absence of structure, is actually shaped by the universe's deepest rules. Voids have sizes, distributions, relationships. They evolve. They respond to expansion the way bubbles respond to rising dough, growing larger as the whole loaf expands. Scientists study these voids carefully. They measure their diameters, their shapes, how they cluster together. Subtle differences in these measurements reveal how fast the universe is expanding and how dark energy influences that expansion. Voids become quiet instruments, sensitive to changes that bright galaxies alone might miss. You imagine gently pressing on a sponge submerged in water. The sponge has holes, empty spaces, but they deform when pressure changes. In a similar way, cosmic voids respond to the pressure of expansion. Dark energy alters that pressure, and the voids subtly change shape. By observing them, scientists infer the properties of the force shaping space. As you float here, you realize that emptiness is not passive. It participates. It reacts. It records. The universe does not only write its history in matter and light, but also in the spaces between. Dark energy leaves its signature in how empty regions stretch, flatten, or deepen over time. There is something soothing about this perspective. Even nothingness has a role. Even absence is meaningful. You feel your own thoughts echo this truth, noticing the quiet gaps between breaths, between heartbeats. These pauses are not wasted. They give rhythm to everything else. You drift along a filament now, watching galaxies arranged like beads on a thread. Gravity draws them together, but dark energy gently pulls the thread taut, lengthening it. The balance between these influences determines the web's overall tension. Too much gravity, and everything would collapse inward. too much expansion, and the web would thin until it dissolved. The universe rests delicately between these extremes. From this vantage, dark energy feels less mysterious and more relational. It is not something added on top of the universe, but something that shapes how everything relates to everything else. Distances, separations, connections, all are influenced by this quiet driver of expansion. You imagine future epochs, where voids grow larger and more dominant. Galaxies retreat into their clusters, becoming more isolated. The cosmic web stretches thinner, its threads extended by expanding space. Emptiness slowly claims more territory, not through destruction, but through gentle persistence. This thought does not feel lonely. It feels spacious. The universe is not emptying out in a hurry. It is unfolding, creating room. Dark energy ensures that this unfolding continues, slow and steady, like a story that refuses to end abruptly. You sense how maps of the universe capture this structure. By charting where galaxies are and, just as importantly, where they are not, scientists trace the outlines of voids. These maps reveal a lacework of emptiness and matter, a pattern too large to grasp all at once, yet coherent when viewed from afar. Each void becomes a kind of lens. Light passing through emptier regions experiences space differently than light passing near dense clusters. These subtle differences further reveal how expansion behaves on large scales. Emptiness, again, becomes informative. As your awareness drifts deeper, you feel the calm logic of it all. Dark energy does not need to announce itself. Its influence is written into geometry, into the shapes space prefers to take as it grows. By learning to recognize these shapes, humans learn about a force they cannot see. You let this understanding settle, like dust slowly falling through still air. The universe feels less like a collection of objects and more like a living pattern, responsive and interconnected. Emptiness is no longer a void in meaning. It is a canvas on which expansion paints. Your thoughts slow further as you accept that knowledge, like the universe, often comes from observing relationships rather than things. Dark energy is known through how space behaves, how emptiness stretches, how patterns evolve. This indirect knowing feels appropriate, even comforting. As you prepare to drift onward, you sense the next question forming gently. If emptiness has shape, if expansion has rhythm, then perhaps the universe itself breathes. Distance is growing and growing faster, like lungs filling with air. Soon, you will begin to notice that rhythm more clearly, listening to how astronomers measure the universe's expansion as a steady, cosmic breath. You arrive at a moment where motion feels gentle enough to listen to. After shapes and light and emptiness, the universe now offers you rhythm. Not a sound, exactly, but a pattern of change that repeats itself across time. Expansion becomes something you can almost feel in your body, like the rise and fall of breath when sleep draws near. You imagine the universe resting, then slowly inhaling. Space expands, distances increase, and galaxies drift farther apart. At first, the motion is subtle, nearly imperceptible. But over time, the inhale deepens. The universe does not pause between breaths. It keeps drawing space into itself, quietly and evenly, everywhere at once. Astronomers learn to measure this breathing with great care. They do not watch galaxies move in real time. That motion is far too slow. Instead, they measure distances and compare them across vast spans of space and time. Expansion becomes a relationship rather than an observation, a comparison between how far light has traveled and how much it has stretched along the way. At the heart of this measurement is a simple idea: the farther away a galaxy is, the faster it appears to be moving away. This relationship feels intuitive, like noticing that distant waves spread wider apart than nearby ripples. The universe expands uniformly, and that uniformity allows its breadth to be measured. This rate of expansion is called the Hubble expansion, named not after a force, but after the human effort to notice a pattern. You sense the humility in this naming. It is not claimed as ownership, only recognition. The universe breathes whether or not anyone measures it. Science simply learns how to count the breaths. You imagine each galaxy as a tiny marker on an inflating surface. Nearby markers drift apart slowly. Distant ones recede more quickly. This does not mean the universe has a center or an edge. From every location, the same pattern appears. Wherever you stand, the universe seems to be expanding away from you, like a breath filling all directions equally. At first, astronomers expect this breathing to slow down. Gravity should act like an exhale, pulling things back inward, or at least resisting the expansion. The universe, filled with matter, should gradually lose momentum. This expectation feels reasonable, even comforting. After all, effort usually fades with time. But the measurements tell a different story. When astronomers compare distances across cosmic history, they notice something unexpected. The expansion is not easing. It is quickening. The universe's inhale is becoming deeper, stronger, more pronounced with time. This realization arrives not as a shockwave, but as a quiet discrepancy. Numbers do not line up the way they should. Distant objects are farther away than predicted. The breath is deeper than expected. Something unseen is assisting the expansion, encouraging space to stretch faster instead of slowing down. Dark energy slips into the story here, not as a dramatic entrance, but as an explanation that fits the rhythm. It acts like an invisible elasticity in space, allowing each inhale to surpass the last. The universe breathes not because it must, but because its fabric permits and encourages expansion. You feel how gentle this remains. Acceleration does not mean suddenness. Even a growing breath can stay smooth and calm. The universe does not gasp. It expands with patience, its rhythm steady over billions of years. Dark energy simply ensures that the rhythm does not fade. Astronomers translate this breathing into maps and graphs, curves that trace expansion across time. These curves reveal the moment when expansion shifts from slowing to accelerating. It is like noticing when a sleeping body breathes more deeply, not from effort, but from relaxation. You sense the tenderness in this interpretation. The universe is not straining against gravity. It is easing beyond it. Dark energy does not overpower gravity, it outlasts it on the largest scales. Gravity still binds stars, planets, galaxies. But between galaxies, where space is vast and matter is thin, expansion quietly takes the lead. You imagine placing your hand on the chest of the universe, feeling the slow rise. Each breath takes billions of years. Each exhale never fully arrives, because expansion does not reverse. The universe simply continues to make room. Different methods of measurement listen to this breathing in different ways. Some track the light of distant supernovae, using them as markers of distance. Others study the large-scale distribution of galaxies, noticing patterns left over from early cosmic sound waves. Each method listens to the same breath from a different angle. Together, these measurements form a chorus. They agree on the essential rhythm: the universe is expanding, and it is doing so faster than before. Yet they also reveal small tensions, slight disagreements in the exact rate. These differences are not failures. They are invitations to listen more closely. You feel how science mirrors the act of falling asleep. Attention softens. Repetition matters. Patterns emerge only when you stop rushing. Measuring the universe's breadth requires patience, care, and a willingness to sit with uncertainty. Dark energy remains unnamed in its essence, but its effect on the rhythm is clear. Without it, the breadth would shallow over time. With it, expansion grows more confident, more spacious. The universe learns to inhale more fully. This breathing does not threaten what exists. Stars still shine. Galaxies still spin. Life, where it appears, continues to notice itself. Expansion happens between things, not within them. The universe grows without tearing itself apart. You rest in this understanding, feeling your own breath echo the cosmic one. Inhale. Space expands. Exhale. Awareness settles. The rhythm connects you gently to everything else, from the smallest cell to the largest void. As the chapter draws to a close, you sense that breathing is not just about space. Time itself may be stretching too, subtly altered by expansion. If the universe's breadth grows deeper, then moments may spread farther apart, changing how past and present relate. You settle into a quieter awareness now, where motion is no longer about distance alone. After listening to the universe breathe, you begin to notice something subtler still. With every gentle expansion of space, time seems to loosen its grip. Moments feel less tightly packed. The universe is not only growing wider, it is growing more patient. You imagine time as a fabric laid across space, stitched carefully to every distance. When space stretches, time must follow, adjusting itself so that nothing tears. This stretching does not break time or distort it violently. It softens it, the way warmth softens wax. Seconds, years, and eras remain in order, but the spacing between events quietly changes. In your everyday life, time feels steady and reliable. A heartbeat follows another. Night turns into morning. Seasons repeat. But on cosmic scales, time behaves differently. Expansion changes how long journeys take, how quickly signals arrive, how past and present speak to one another. Dark energy plays a role here, not by speeding clocks up or slowing them down, but by reshaping the stage on which time unfolds. You imagine two distant galaxies drifting farther apart as space expands. Light traveling between them must now cross a longer distance than before. The journey takes more time. In this way, expansion weaves itself into the flow of time without touching the clocks inside stars or minds. Time stretches because space does. Astronomers notice this effect when they look deep into the universe. The farther they look, the further back in time they see. But this backward glance is not uniform. Expansion stretches light and lengthens its travel, subtly altering how past events are observed. The universe reveals its history unevenly, like a story told with pauses that grow longer with each chapter. Dark energy influences how quickly those pauses lengthen. As expansion accelerates, the separation between cosmic events grows faster. The future drifts away from the past more quickly than once expected. Time itself does not accelerate, but the spacing between cosmic milestones increases. You feel how this reframes the idea of cosmic age. The universe is about 14 billion years old, yet those years are not evenly distributed across its story. Early eras are dense with change. Galaxies form. Stars ignite. Matter clumps rapidly. Later eras stretch out, calmer and quieter, with fewer dramatic transformations. Dark energy encourages this quieting by expanding space more rapidly as time goes on. It is as if the universe spends its youth in a rush and its maturity in reflection. Time slows its storytelling pace, lingering longer on each scene. Expansion creates room not only between galaxies, but between events. You imagine time as a river flowing through an expanding valley. Upstream, the river moves quickly, squeezed between narrow banks. Downstream, the valley widens, and the river spreads out, flowing more gently. Dark energy widens the valley of space, allowing time's flow to feel calmer, more spacious. This does not mean that clocks tick differently now than they did long ago. Physics keeps its promises locally. A second remains a second. But the context in which seconds accumulate changes. The universe arranges those seconds into longer, quieter stretches. Maps of the cosmos capture this effect indirectly. By comparing light from different eras, scientists see how expansion reshapes timelines. They reconstruct the universe not as a simple sequence of events, but as a layered structure where time and space evolve together. Dark energy subtly alters that structure, lengthening the later layers. You find comfort in this idea. A universe that stretches time feels less hurried. There is no rush toward an ending. Expansion ensures that the future opens slowly, creating vast intervals of stillness. Even dramatic changes take billions of years to unfold. You consider your own place in this stretched timeline. Your life occupies a tiny moment, yet that moment exists within an era shaped by dark energy. The calmness you feel now echoes the universe's maturity. The cosmos has learned how to linger. Stars, too, feel this gentle stretch. In an accelerating universe, galaxies grow more isolated over time. Fewer interactions mean fewer bursts of new star formation. Stars age quietly, burning their fuel steadily. The night sky grows calmer, not emptier, but more settled. Dark energy does not age stars directly, but it creates conditions that favor patience over chaos. Time, under its influence, becomes something that allows rather than demands. The universe is given room to rest between events. You think about calendars, about how humans measure time in days and years. These measurements assume a steady background, a universe that behaves consistently. Dark energy challenges none of this locally, yet globally it reminds you that time's meaning depends on scale. What feels fixed nearby can be flexible when viewed across billions of light years. This realization softens your thoughts. It suggests that urgency is often a matter of perspective. On cosmic scales, everything unfolds slowly enough to be gentle. Even expansion, even acceleration, happens with extraordinary patience. You imagine the far future, where expansion has stretched space so much that distant galaxies fade beyond visibility. Their light will never reach new observers. Time will still pass, but the universe's observable story will grow quieter. Dark energy ensures that this quiet deepens gradually, without collapse or sudden change. This future does not feel empty. It feels restful. The universe seems content to spread out and settle into long spans of calm existence. Time becomes an open field rather than a narrow path. As you rest with this image, you notice how your own sense of time responds. Thoughts slow. Moments lengthen. Awareness drifts gently from one idea to the next. You are not leaving time behind. You are relaxing into it. Dark energy remains invisible, yet its influence is everywhere. It shapes not only where things are, but when they relate to one another. It quietly rearranges the universe's schedule, spacing events farther apart, allowing history to breathe. You realize that understanding time in an expanding universe means letting go of rigid expectations. Past, present, and future are connected by distances that change. Now is not a universal slice, but a local experience. Elsewhere, far away, other nows drift farther from yours with each cosmic breath. This thought does not isolate you. It connects you gently to the idea that every observer carries their own present, shaped by where they are in space. Dark energy increases these separations, but it does so impartially, without preference. You feel yourself resting inside this stretched moment, held by a universe that allows time to unfold slowly. There is nowhere you need to go next. Yet curiosity stirs softly. If time stretches and space expands, how does gravity respond? How does the force that pulls things together behave when the universe keeps learning how to let go? You arrive now at a familiar force, one you have known all your life, even if you never named it. Gravity. It is the reason your body rests against the bed, the reason rain falls downward, the reason planets trace gentle paths around stars. Gravity feels dependable, almost comforting. It gathers. It holds. It promises that things belong together. As you drift through the universe, you feel gravity everywhere. Within galaxies, it is strong and intimate. Stars orbit calmly, bound to one another by mutual pull. Gas clouds gather, compress, ignite. Gravity works patiently, never rushing, always drawing matter inward. It is the great storyteller of structure, shaping order from early chaos. For a long time, gravity seems like the universe's final word. It gathers matter after the Big Bang, slowing expansion, forming galaxies and clusters. It builds complexity. It gives the universe its visible beauty. You can almost imagine gravity as a careful hand, gently pulling scattered pieces into meaningful arrangements. But as you rest deeper into the cosmic calm, you begin to notice a change. Gravity still works, still holds, but it no longer dominates everything. On the largest scales, something else speaks just as softly, just as persistently. Space itself continues to expand, and gravity cannot quite persuade it to stop. This does not feel like a struggle. There is no tearing or snapping. Instead, it feels like a quiet negotiation. Gravity gathers where it can. Dark energy stretches where it may. Each acts within its domain, neither canceling the other, neither fully in control. You imagine holding a handful of sand. Your fingers curl inward, trying to keep the grains together. But the sand slowly slips through, not because your grip is weak, but because the spaces between your fingers allow it. Gravity's grip works the same way. Within galaxies and clusters, it closes its fingers tightly. Between them, space keeps opening. Dark energy does not push against gravity directly. It does not pull matter apart. It simply causes space to expand, and that expansion changes the rules. When space grows faster than gravity can gather across vast distances, separation becomes inevitable. Gravity learns to let go, not because it fails, but because the universe's scale has changed. You feel how gentle this is. There is no cosmic conflict, no dramatic overthrow. Gravity continues to rule locally. Planets remain loyal to stars. Galaxies remain loyal to themselves. Dark energy takes over only in the quiet in-between, where matter is thin and distances are immense. Astronomers see this balance clearly when they observe galaxy clusters. Inside them, gravity still reigns. Clusters remain bound, their galaxies orbiting together for billions of years. But between clusters, expansion accelerates. Over time, clusters drift farther apart, increasingly isolated islands in a widening sea of space. You imagine the universe as a gathering that slowly disperses. Small groups stay together, talking softly. Larger crowds thin out. Eventually, only distant lights remain visible across the room. Dark energy is not forcing people to leave. It is simply enlarging the room. This perspective softens the fear often attached to cosmic expansion. The universe is not being torn apart. It is reorganizing itself into scales where different forces dominate. Gravity governs intimacy. Dark energy governs separation. You sense how deeply relational this is. Forces do not act in isolation. Their influence depends on distance, density, context. Gravity weakens with separation. Dark energy grows more influential as space increases. The universe is shaped by this shifting balance, not by absolutes. As expansion continues, gravity's long-range influence fades. It becomes increasingly difficult for distant regions to affect one another. Signals take longer to travel. Interactions become rarer. The universe grows quieter, not because gravity disappears, but because it has less opportunity to act across growing gaps. This letting go does not erase what gravity has built. Galaxies remain complex. Stars continue their lives. Planets keep their paths. Dark energy respects these structures, expanding space mostly where gravity's grip is weakest. You find something comforting in this restraint. The universe does not abandon its creations. It simply gives them room. Gravity's role shifts from shaping the whole to preserving the local. You imagine gravity as a lullaby sung close to home, while dark energy hums a deeper note that fills the entire room. Both sounds coexist, each audible in its own way. Together, they create the universe's quiet harmony. Scientists describe dark energy as having a kind of negative pressure, a property that causes space to expand. Gravity, by contrast, pulls inward. Yet these descriptions are only metaphors, ways of pointing toward behaviors that resist simple intuition. What matters is not the labels, but the outcome. Expansion accelerates, while structures endure. You reflect on how this mirrors emotional experience. Holding on is necessary, but so is letting go. Too much grip creates tension. Too much release creates disconnection. Balance allows continuity. The universe seems to understand this instinctively, adjusting its forces across scale. As billions of years pass, gravity's role becomes more localized. The largest cosmic structures stop growing. New clusters form less often. The universe's architecture settles into a mature state. Dark energy ensures that this maturity unfolds slowly, without collapse. You imagine the far future again. Each galaxy cluster becomes a self-contained community, surrounded by expanding space that carries other clusters beyond reach. Gravity still governs these communities, but the universe as a whole becomes a collection of quiet neighborhoods drifting apart. This future does not feel tragic. It feels peaceful. Gravity has done its work. Dark energy allows the result to rest without interference. The universe moves toward a state where change continues, but at a gentler pace. As your thoughts slow, you notice how the idea of letting go resonates. Gravity learning to release does not mean failure. It means adaptation. The universe evolves not by clinging to one rule, but by allowing different influences to guide different scales. Dark energy remains subtle, never announcing itself, never disrupting what gravity holds close. It simply ensures that the universe does not collapse back into itself. It keeps space open, possibilities extended, futures spacious. You rest inside this understanding, feeling held where it matters, released where it is safe. The cosmos offers both support and freedom, depending on distance. There is wisdom in that balance. As this chapter fades, you sense the next step forming gently. If gravity and dark energy shape the universe together, how do humans learn to see their combined effects? How do invisible forces become visible through careful observation, transformed into maps, colors, and lines that trace what cannot be seen? Dark energy affects this bending indirectly. As expansion accelerates, it changes how structures grow and how strongly they warp light. The maps capture this as delicate patterns, barely perceptible unless you look very closely. Drawing the invisible requires learning how to notice almost nothing. You sense the calm discipline in this work. There is no rush to conclusion. Claims must survive repetition, scrutiny, and independent confirmation. Different teams use different methods, different data, different assumptions. Only when their maps begin to agree does confidence grow. You realize how deeply human this process is. It is not about domination or control. It is about listening carefully enough that the universe reveals itself on its own terms. Dark energy does not yield to force. It yields to patience. As the maps improve, they begin to show the universe in 3 dimensions, then 4, layering space and time together. Expansion becomes something you can see evolving. Early maps show a universe where gravity dominates, structures forming eagerly. Later maps show expansion taking over, gently stretching those structures apart. You imagine flipping through these maps like pages in a book. Each page shows a different era. Dark energy's influence grows from page to page, subtle at first, then unmistakable. The universe's story becomes visible not through events, but through spacing. There is something soothing about this kind of knowledge. It does not rely on spectacle. It relies on consistency. The same patterns appear again and again, across different regions of sky, across different methods of observation. Dark energy proves itself by being reliable. You notice how silence plays a role here too. Empty regions of space voids become just as important as bright clusters. The maps include both, because absence carries information. Where galaxies are missing, expansion has often been most effective. Emptiness becomes a signal. Drawing the invisible also means accepting limits. The maps are never finished. New data always refines them. New questions always emerge. Scientists do not seek finality. They seek clarity, knowing it will always be partial. You find comfort in this openness. The universe does not demand certainty. It allows understanding to deepen gradually, the way sleep deepens when you stop trying to control it. Dark energy remains mysterious, but not unreachable. As your thoughts drift, you imagine future maps drawn by future minds. Wider surveys. Sharper measurements. Patterns you cannot yet imagine. Dark energy will still not show its face, but its influence will become even clearer, woven into ever more detailed drawings of the cosmos. You feel yourself resting inside one of these maps now, a tiny point carried along by expansion. You are both observer and participant, part of the picture being drawn. The universe includes you in its data, simply by existing where you are. As this chapter settles, a gentle tension begins to form. The maps are beautiful, coherent, convincing, and yet, small irregularities appear. Slight mismatches. Patterns that do not align perfectly. Whispers that something may not be entirely smooth. You linger with the maps a little longer, letting your eyes and thoughts move slowly across them. At first, everything feels calm and consistent. The universe appears smooth on its largest scales, expanding evenly, breathing with a rhythm that feels almost reassuring. But as you remain still and attentive, something subtle begins to stand out. Not a flaw, not a disruption, just a quiet unevenness, like a note held a fraction too long in a familiar melody. These are not patterns anyone expects to find. They are small, gentle deviations from what the simplest models predict. Slight differences in how fast space seems to expand in different directions. Tiny mismatches between measurements made using different kinds of light. The universe, which seemed content to behave predictably, now appears to hesitate, as if considering alternative rhythms. You do not sense alarm here. Instead, there is curiosity. The patterns are faint, easy to dismiss, yet persistent enough to invite attention. Scientists notice them because they listen carefully, because they expect smoothness and find just enough texture to wonder. The universe is not breaking its rules. It is hinting that the rules may be incomplete. You imagine running your hand across a calm lake. Most of the surface is glassy and still, reflecting the sky perfectly. But here and there, faint ripples appear, caused not by wind or disturbance, but by something subtle beneath the surface. These ripples do not ruin the calm. They add depth to it. In the maps of dark energy, these ripples appear as tensions. One method of measuring expansion gives a slightly different answer than another. The difference is small, but it refuses to vanish as data improves. It lingers, quiet and patient, asking to be noticed rather than ignored. You feel how tempting it would be to smooth these patterns away, to assume they are errors or misunderstandings. And sometimes, they are. Science expects mistakes and works carefully to eliminate them. But sometimes, after every correction is made, a pattern remains. That is when curiosity deepens. Dark energy, once imagined as simple and constant, begins to feel more nuanced. What if it is not the same everywhere? What if its influence changes subtly across space, or shifts gently over time? These questions do not arise from speculation, but from observation, from patterns that should not exist, yet quietly do. You notice how carefully scientists speak about these findings. There is no rush to claim discovery. Words like tension and anomaly are chosen with care. They signal interest without certainty. The universe is allowed to be ambiguous. You imagine dark energy as a calm presence that may not be perfectly uniform, like a still fog that varies slightly in thickness from place to place. Most of the time, the difference is imperceptible. But over vast distances, small variations accumulate, leaving faint signatures in the expansion of space. Some patterns appear when scientists look at the early universe and compare it to the present one. Measurements from ancient light suggest one expansion rate. Measurements from nearby galaxies suggest another. The two do not quite align. The discrepancy is small enough to be gentle, large enough to persist. You sense how this creates a quiet tension in understanding. Not conflict, but invitation. The universe may be asking for a more refined description of dark energy, one that allows flexibility rather than simplicity. Perhaps the force-shaping expansion has a story of its own, unfolding gradually. Other patterns appear in the distribution of galaxies themselves. On the largest scales, matter should arrange itself evenly, yet slight asymmetries emerge. Clusters seem a bit more pronounced here, voids a bit emptier there. These differences are subtle, but they echo across enormous distances. You feel the patience required to notice such things. These patterns do not announce themselves. They require years of observation, careful statistics, and a willingness to sit with uncertainty. The universe rewards those who listen slowly. There is something comforting in the idea that the cosmos is not entirely settled. A perfectly smooth universe might feel finished, closed to further discovery. These gentle irregularities keep the story open. They suggest that understanding is still unfolding, just as space is. You imagine the universe as a sleeping mind, mostly calm, occasionally stirring with half-formed thoughts. Dark energy, once assumed to be unchanging, may be part of that inner motion. Not restless, not dramatic, just quietly complex. These patterns do not threaten the larger picture. Expansion still happens. Dark energy still dominates on large scales. Gravity still binds what is close. The universe remains coherent. But within that coherence, there is texture. You reflect on how often comfort comes from gentle imperfection. A perfectly still night can feel unsettling, while a faint breeze reassures you that the world is alive. In the same way, these small cosmic inconsistencies make the universe feel more real, more responsive. Scientists test these patterns relentlessly. They check instruments. They repeat observations. They compare results across continents and generations. Each time the patterns persist, confidence grows not in any specific explanation, but in the fact that something subtle is being revealed. You feel how this moment in science mirrors a moment in rest. Just as you drift towards sleep, thoughts loosen their grip, and unexpected images arise. They do not demand action. They invite curiosity. The universe seems to be in a similar state, revealing deeper layers only when approached gently. Dark energy begins to feel less like a static background and more like a participant in cosmic evolution. Still calm. Still quiet. But perhaps not entirely uniform. Perhaps shaped by laws not yet fully understood. You imagine future maps drawn with even greater precision. The faint ripples become clearer. New patterns emerge. Some mysteries resolve, others deepen. The universe remains generous with questions, never exhausting its capacity to surprise. As you rest with this uncertainty, you notice that not knowing feels peaceful here. The lack of final answers does not disturb the calm. It enhances it. The universe does not need to be simple to be soothing. You allow the idea to settle. Dark energy may be stable, or it may evolve. It may be the same everywhere, or gently varied. The patterns do not yet say. They only suggest that listening should continue. As this chapter draws to a close, one question floats quietly to the surface. If these patterns persist across time, then perhaps dark energy itself changes. Perhaps it has a history, a future, a story unfolding alongside the universe. You rest with the idea that something so quiet could still be changing. After patterns and tensions, after maps that whisper rather than declare, a deeper question settles gently into your awareness. What if dark energy is not fixed? What if it has a history, unfolding slowly alongside the universe itself? You do not feel urgency in this question. It arrives calmly, like a thought that appears just before sleep. The universe has already taught you patience. Change, on cosmic scales, does not rush. It drifts, revealing itself only when you compare what is now with what once was. To ask whether dark energy changes, scientists learn to turn maps into timelines. Each distant galaxy becomes a window into an earlier era. Light from far away shows the universe when it was younger, denser, less stretched. Light from nearby shows it closer to the present. By arranging these observations carefully, the universe's past and present can be compared side by side. You imagine these eras laid out like pages on a long table. Early pages are crowded with activity. Matter clumps quickly. Gravity shapes structure with confidence. Dark energy, if present at all, barely whispers. Later pages feel calmer. Expansion becomes more influential. Distances grow faster. The universe relaxes into spaciousness. For a long time, the simplest assumption is that dark energy never changes. It is treated as a constant property of space, the same yesterday, today, and forever. This idea is comforting. It makes the universe predictable. It suggests that the future will echo the present, only more spread out. But the subtle patterns you have noticed before make this assumption feel less certain. If measurements from different eras do not quite agree, perhaps something evolves. Perhaps dark energy was quieter in the past and stronger now. Or perhaps its influence shifts in a way that is gentle, gradual, and difficult to detect. You sense how carefully this idea must be handled. Claiming change requires extraordinary evidence. The universe is vast, and small errors can masquerade as trends. Scientists proceed slowly, testing models that allow dark energy to vary, then comparing them to observations with meticulous care. These models do not imagine dramatic transformations. There are no sudden surges or collapses. Instead, dark energy is allowed to drift, to adjust its influence over billions of years. In some models, it grows slightly stronger. In others, it weakens. In still others, it behaves almost like a living balance, responding subtly to the universe's expansion. You imagine dark energy as a quiet companion to space, adapting as space grows. Not deciding, not planning, simply responding to deeper rules that are not yet fully known. The universe becomes less like a machine and more like a process. Maps help test these ideas. When astronomers compare expansion at different epochs, they look for signs of curvature in the timeline, moments where acceleration changes pace. So far, the evidence is subtle, suggestive but not conclusive. Dark energy may be constant, or it may be evolving just slowly enough to hide. You settle now into the final stillness of this journey, letting your awareness drift gently across the universe you have glimpsed. Light, emptiness, time, gravity, and invisible forces, all of them linger in your mind like soft echoes of a long conversation. You do not need to control them or fully understand them. You only need to notice them, to rest with their presence. The universe stretches around you, vast and calm. Distances between galaxies continue to grow, gentle and unhurried. You sense the quiet rhythm of expansion once more, the same deep, patient breathing you traced through voids, filaments, and clusters. Each cosmic breath carries with it subtle signs, faint reminders of the forces shaping space, gravity keeping what is close together, dark energy allowing everything else to drift apart. Maps you have imagined, lines, colors, curves rest now in your mind like delicate drawings pressed onto a soft page. They show the unseen, trace the patterns of influence, capture the shape of emptiness. They remind you that understanding comes not only from observing what exists, but from noticing the spaces in between. Dark energy, though still mysterious, leaves a signature you can feel. It is the quiet hand that has guided the universe's growth, shaping not only matter and light but also the very rhythm of time and the distances between moments. You imagine yourself as a point within one of those maps, small yet inseparable from the whole. The universe does not pause for you, yet it carries you along effortlessly. Expansion does not overwhelm or scatter you, it simply enfolds you into the larger motion, part of a cosmic tide that has been flowing since the beginning. You are not outside this process, observing from afar. You are inside it, resting within it. Dark energy remains unnamed, almost like a secret whispered in the spaces between galaxies. Scientists measure its effects, model its behavior, and map its influence, but its essence remains beyond direct touch or image. And yet, it is familiar through its consequences, the accelerating expansion, the stretching of voids, the gentle separation of clusters, the quiet patterns etched across space and time. Even in absence, it has presence. You feel the intimacy of this realization. Forces too vast to see directly still shape your world, your perception, and your place within the cosmos. They do not act on you personally, yet you move with them, breathe with them, exist alongside them. You are part of an unfolding story whose timescale is far longer than any single life, yet whose rhythm you can trace in thought and imagination. Time itself feels both expansive and comforting here. You notice the slow stretching of moments, the way past and future are separated by space that continues to widen. It is not a pressure, not a burden, it is a gentle opening, a softening of what was once dense, a lengthening of what might feel compressed. The universe allows each moment to linger, each thought to unfold without rush, each breath to carry quietly into the next. Galaxies, clusters, filaments, and voids continue their slow dance. Gravity binds what is nearby, its familiar reassurance present in each orbiting star and rotating galaxy. Dark energy allows the more distant, the vast, and the unseen to drift outward, creating a universe that is spacious, ordered yet free, intimate yet immense. The cosmic web extends and stretches, tracing a delicate lacework that holds a balance between tension and release, between presence and absence. You imagine the far future, billions and trillions of years from now. Distant galaxies will fade beyond view. Clusters may drift into quiet isolation. Stars will burn steadily, then dim. Space will grow ever wider, emptier, yet calm. And even then, expansion will continue. Dark energy's influence will remain, steady and unassuming, shaping the unfolding universe with patience rather than urgency. This cosmic calm feels like a lullaby, soft and unending, sung across the immeasurable vastness. As you linger, you feel the subtle hum of curiosity, the quiet invitation of unanswered questions. What is dark energy truly? Will it change over time or remain constant? Are there patterns yet unseen, waiting to be revealed in maps not yet drawn? You do not need answers now. They rest gently in the universe, part of the ongoing journey, as patient and enduring as the expansion itself. Your awareness moves inward, reflecting on how this vastness mirrors your own inner space. Just as voids and clusters shape the cosmos, quiet and activity coexist within you. Just as expansion creates room between galaxies, moments and thoughts stretch within your mind. You are connected to the universe not only externally but internally, tracing its rhythms in the ebb and flow of attention, breath, and awareness. The act of resting within this expanding mystery becomes a meditation. There is no hurry to resolve. No need to fully capture or define. Observation itself becomes a gentle participation. You sense your own presence as part of the larger whole, neither dominating nor dominated, neither rushed nor static, simply existing alongside the universe's growth. You notice the delicate interplay of forces once more. Gravity, persistent and patient, binds local structures. Dark energy, quiet and subtle, ensures that space stretches beyond immediate reach. Together, they create a cosmos that is at once orderly and free, structured yet spacious. The universe is neither perfectly predictable nor entirely chaotic. It is a balance, a living framework that carries everything within it, including you. Maps, patterns, and measurements return to your awareness. You see them as extensions of human curiosity, tools for understanding forces too vast to grasp with naked senses. They remind you that comprehension is not immediate or absolute. Knowledge emerges gradually, like light spreading across a diamonding sky. Each refinement, each observation, each careful drawing contributes to a deeper sense of harmony, even if the ultimate truth remains just beyond reach. You feel gratitude for this calm observation. The universe does not demand mastery. It allows you to witness without urgency. It allows questions to coexist with quiet. It allows curiosity to settle into gentle attention rather than anxiety. The cosmos carries itself forward patiently, and it allows you to do the same. As you rest further into this awareness, you sense continuity across time and space. The first galaxies, the early voids, the cosmic web, and the accelerating expansion all are part of a single flowing process. Dark energy, though unseen, is integral. Its influence is pervasive yet subtle, shaping the universe without forcing it, guiding expansion without demanding obedience. You are part of this flow, moving with it, resting inside it. You let your imagination expand along with space itself. You drift among clusters, float through filaments, and hover over vast emptiness. Every place you visit carries the imprint of forces both visible and invisible. You notice that understanding, like expansion, grows more gentle when approached patiently, more coherent when traced over long spans rather than rushed in a moment. There is a soft humility in this realization. The universe is larger than comprehension, yet never unkind. Its forces are immense, yet delicate. Its timescales are unimaginable, yet intimately connected to your sense of being. Resting inside it, you feel part of an unfolding pattern that has always been, and will continue, long after individual thoughts fade. Finally, you allow your mind to drift completely with the rhythm of expansion. The maps and patterns, the invisible forces, the gentle stretching of space and time, they all dissolve into awareness, leaving only the calm pulse of a universe quietly growing. Dark energy remains elusive, yet its presence is undeniable in every measure, every distance, every breath of space. You rest here without expectation, without urgency. The universe continues to expand, and you are carried effortlessly within its flow. Nothing demands your control, nothing requires immediate understanding. The cosmos moves, you move, and the quiet alignment of existence feels like the softest form of knowing.